through the polar vortex, and we managed to mostly unscathed from ice again. That was scheduled to hit here yesterday, so we didn't see that. A little bit of freezing rain again still today, but we'll
Yep.
survive.
Yep. No, I hear you. We're a little cold snap up here as well, but hey, it's winter, right? It is
Yeah,
winter.
exactly.
It is winter. All right. So China thing, they're grasping to that 5 million metric ton thing for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks here. That's the only news story they really have about China, and they're kind of, sort of, maybe gonna get there, maybe if they ever
Yeah.
get their act together. And then, but the bigger thing here is this report that comes out tomorrow. That was
Yeah.
me. It's a combination of the February and the January report due to the government shutdown, and now we got some pretty big numbers that are coming through. There, I've heard some rumblings about maybe the crop, the average yield wasn't as big as what they thought, and maybe it was drastically overstated from what it should have been. But I don't know. Is that a buy the rumor, sell the fact type of thing, or what do you think on that?
No, to be completely honest, if you look at the pre-report expectations right now, you see that most folks are anticipating the corn yield to come in around that 178 number, which I think has been kind of that number that's been heavily discussed here for a while. So it'll only be slightly lower than what the December number looked like for the USDA. So if they did come out and lower yield, more than that one bushel to the acre or something like that. If we saw a 5 bushel to the acre reduction in yield, you're looking at 400 million bushel, or a big chunk of bushels there. I mean, you're not looking at a tiny amount. Now, obviously, there's some adjustments that could be made to ethanol usage, and that if we were to see a significant reduction in production, we'd probably see some adjustments lower in feed usage. Exports right now are the one thing that we really can kind of hang our hat on, and that does not look like it will be reduced. If anything, we look like we could actually increase export usage via the USDA here in tomorrow's report. So we'll be watching to see what happens. I mean, it's been something that we've been discussing for a while now, because a lot of the elevator folk that I talk to out there are kind of like, where's the crop? And so that's been the discussion, kind of over and over and over again of, did it feel like it wasn't as big as what we were expecting because it took forever to harvest? So that's one of the factors that could kind of contribute to this, is that, if you have a 3-week harvest window, even with a smaller crop, you're choking on it. You know what I mean? But if you have a 10-week, 12-week harvest window, or in some instances, I think harvest ran from like September until it's still going on, in parts of Nebraska, from what I've seen. You can kind of chew through a lot of bushels that way. So there's a lot of confusion. December 1st stocks will show us what we had on hand. But the thing that'll be interesting in December 1st stocks numbers versus what we've seen in the past years is that, again, we were harvesting corn December 1st. So typically you have the crop kind of buttoned up and put away at least by Thanksgiving throughout the bulk of the Corn Belt. And this year, at least here in Michigan and in some other locations, that are relatively, much larger producing states than we are here in Michigan, we were still seeing harvest take place. So there's a lot of muddiness around what the numbers will look like tomorrow. It was one of those things where, we had a lot of concern over what they would look like leading up to January even. We've been talking about this since the December, whatever, 11th report came out. And then we have this extra 4 weeks of anticipation. So tomorrow should kind of give us fireworks one way or another, or at least hopefully break us out of this 380. Right now we're in a 5-cent range. It feels like 378 to 383 and back. And so we're really just stuck at this 380 level. So hopefully whatever tomorrow gives us, we break out of that range.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump into one thing real quick. What about
He's
what,
bullish corn. He says buy with both hands.
the the Chinese hog thing? It's kind of, I haven't heard much about it, and usually when we don't hear much about it, there's a big boom coming. What have you heard anything more about them than since last time we talked about it?
Yeah, well, I think that we right now we're celebrating the New Year's holiday. It's the year of the pig,
Right.
and obviously New Year's in China, it's a week-long festivity of celebrating with friends and family and eating until you explode and things like that. So your log demand increases significantly, especially during stretch here. So I would not be surprised if China wasn't really looking to kind of silence the reports of what's taking place, just to kind of try to keep hog prices in check with what was going on. We did see them lift transportation restrictions in like 88 provinces here 10 days or so ago to try and allow for free flow of pork from areas that may have too much to the areas that may not have enough. So I think that was really done, like I said, to kind of encourage relatively cheaper hog prices or pork prices going into the holiday. So it'll be interesting to see if they kind of give us excuse me, a huge chunk of data here after the holiday wraps up next week. Now it's China, so they're never going to give us a huge chunk of data, but we may start to see some more realistic pricing impacts take place. We are hearing that the spread of the disease is taking place and amplifying in the wild boar population there in Belgium. And then we did actually see, it's not ASF, but it's another swine fever in Japan, resulting in the culling of about 15,000 hogs there because of the disease. These swine fevers, they hit the hog population, they wipe out the herd, and you have to call the hogs around them, but they don't impact humans, luckily, but it definitely will have a continued impact as we move ahead. And it'll be interesting to see. I mean, we keep focusing on soybeans when it comes to the Chinese conversations, but we aren't looking at the fact that they probably really are going to need some significant U.S. pork imports to keep prices stabilized here into the summer months.
Right on. All right. So, what about South America? I know they've had some weather issues as far as dryness goes. What do you see down there?
Yeah, that's been the conversation. We actually saw a well-followed group come out this week, pretty major group, and reduce the crop to 112, just over 112 million metric ton. A lot of folks are wondering if that wasn't aggressive. We have seen them when it comes to U.S. expectations of the crop be one of those groups that likes to try to lead the direction and then acts surprised when the USDA doesn't want to follow. So I'll be interested to see, kind of how it comes out, fool me once, shame on me sort of deal with this group. Not to take anything away from them. They're probably, much smarter than me with a lot more data, but, well, I know they are. That's not a probably. They have a lot more data at least. So, we'll see what that looks like. 112 is still a big crop. The conversation obviously is, that's down significantly. So we were talking 130 here 2 months ago. So an 18 million metric ton reduction is significant. It's over 500 million bushel of soybeans. So, but it's one of those things where, and I apologize if this is a terrible analogy, but if you've ever watched My 600-Pound Life, have you seen that show?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Where you weigh 600 pounds and
right.
you're working to lose weight, So like the crop was 600 pounds and it's lost 100. So it's still a big crop, but it's a lot smaller than what it was, So it's one of those things where we have to kind of watch and see what's taking place there. Port values are relatively cheap. They're cheaper than the U.S. values, especially if you factor in the tariffs. And then a lot of folks have been focusing on the wet weather in Argentina, but from what I'm seeing there, the areas that aren't, underwater, which is the bulk of the growing area, are looking pretty well. I hate to say it, but, that rain makes grain sort of mentality. So we'll have to see if Argentina's crop grows at all. That's going to be another couple months before we know what that even looks like. So at this point in time, though, at least we're not choking on Brazilian beans. Like that's, if we were really looking at a 130, you could rationalize $1 lower in trade, but now that's helping kind of keep some of that risk premium in place just until we get an idea as to what we're looking at.
Yeah, right on. All right, Angie. Well, good information as usual. Folks want to reach out to you, pick your brain, or ask you a question about something that's going on. How would they do that?
You can find me on Twitter at Goddess of Grain, or you can email me at asetzer@citizenselevator.com.
Right on. All right, Angie. Have yourself a good weekend. We'll talk to you again next week.
You too. Have a good one.
All right, thanks.